You're welcome again to another session of this lecture tonight. Last week, we rounded up on statistical comparison, but I want to bring to your notice at this very moment, there are some confusions in some of the things I released to you last week. I want to quickly make some corrections. See, we are trying to make statistical comparison between parametric statistics and non-parametric statistics. So I would want you to somehow cancel those comparisons that I gave to you last week. So I will quickly make a correction on some of the comparisons. So quickly make a correction right now. Under the parametric statistics, only two tests are within those tests that I gave you that belongs to parametric, and those are t-test and ANOVA test. T-test and ANOVA test. The rest falls under non-parametric statistics. T-test and ANOVA test falls under parametric statistics, while Wilcoxon test, Mann-Whitney test, Kruskal-Wallis test, Friedman test, correlation test falls under non-parametric test. Okay, so quickly make that correction fast, very, very fast. So now we're going straight to correlation. We are still in chapter 2. As you know, we will need to rush a bit in order to finish our syllabus or curriculum for the semester. So what is correlation? What is correlation? Correlation is a single number that describes the degree of relationship between two variables. Correlation is a single number that describes the degree of relationship between two variables. You can also say correlation is a statistical technique that can show whether and how strongly pairs of variables are related. You can use any of the two. Okay? The next term I want you to note is scale of measurement. Scale of measurement. Scale of measurement specifies a range of values. Scale of measurement specifies a range of values that can be assigned to cases during process of measurement. Scale of measurement specifies a range of values that can be assigned to cases during process of measurements. Now we want to look at correlation coefficient. There's a difference between correlation and correlation coefficient. Correlation coefficient is an index of the extent to which two variables are associated. Or you can even say it is the main result of a correlation. Either of the two, you are right. Correlation coefficient is an index of the extent to which two variables associated, or it is the main result of a correlation. So there is something we also call correlation analysis. Correlation analysis. Just be noting all these terms. They are very, very important to you. Since I am not going to stress you much on calculations, you just have to understand these terms. Correlation analysis is concerned with the strength of the relationship between two variables. Correlation analysis is concerned with the strength of the relationship between two variables. So let us go straight to regression. Regression analysis is another subheading, and I want you to know these terms. Regression analysis is a powerful statistical method that allows you to examine the relationship between two or more variables of interest. It's a powerful statistical method that allows you to examine the relationship between two or more variables of interest. That is regression analysis. So there is a difference between regression analysis and correlation analysis. How does regression analysis work? I want you to note this very well. How does it work? Number one, you will need to define a dependent variable. You will need to define a dependent variable. Number two, you will need to establish a comprehensive data set to work with. You will need to establish a comprehensive data set to work with. Number three, you will need to measure the historical levels of satisfaction with the events. You will need to measure the historical levels of satisfaction with the event. That is number three way. Don't forget the heading, how does regression analysis work? I did mention you will need to define a dependent variable. You will need to establish a comprehensive data set to work with. You will need to measure the historical levels of satisfaction with the events. Those are the three major ways by which regression analysis work. Now I want to go to types of regression. Types of regression. I will need to be fast a bit because we have a long way to go. Types of regression. Okay, we have linear regression, as in L-I-N-E-A-R, linear regression. We also have polynomial regression, P-O-L-Y-N-O-M-I-A-L, polynomial regression. We also have quantile regression, that is Q-U-A-N-T-I-L-E, quantile regression, making three. Coming. Linear is one. Polynomial is number two. Quantile regression is number 3. Then the last regression, I think, is ridge regression. And that is RIDGE, ridge regression. So those are the 4 major ones I want us to understand in these definitions. So I want to quickly start giving us the definitions of these types of regression. Linear regression is the simplest form of regression. It is a technique in which the dependent variables is continuous in nature. Linear regression is the simplest form of regression, and it is a technique in which dependent variables are continuous in nature. Okay? So I only want you to understand the definitions. Polynomial regression is a technique to fit a non-linear equation by taking polynomial functions of independent variables. It's a technique to fit a non-linear equation by taking polynomial functions of independent variables. I only want you, like I said, I only want you to know the definitions of these. Nobody will be stressing you much on this. Okay? Logistic regression. Okay, I missed this when we are talking, when I was mentioning them, which means we are having 5 of these to understand. Logistic regression. In logistic regression, the dependent variable is binary in nature. Binary, that is, having 2 categories. Independent variables can be continuous or binary. So in logistic regression, the dependent variable is binary in nature. Quantile regression is the extension of linear regression, and we generally use it when outliers, high skewness, and heteroscedasticity exist in the data. Don't bother yourself with all these. Okay? Don't bother yourself with all these. You can just say that quantile regression is the extension of linear regression. It's the extension of linear regression. Just that. I think the last type of regression we're going to talk about is ridge regression. I would just want you to know ridge regression as the regulation parameter, which is a non-negative number. Is the regulation parameter, which is a non-negative number. Just know it like that. So ridge regression is also known as shrinkage regression. Shrinkage regression. SHRINKAGE. It is also known as shrinkage regression. Okay, so quickly we're going into the chapter 3 of this material. Sorry. We are going into research design definition right now. I am very sure we will not stay much on this before we go into chapter 4 of it, of the material. What do we understand by research, or what is research? Research is a systematic process of providing satisfactory answers to puzzling questions. It is also a way of seeking answers for the truth. It is also a way of seeking answers for the truth. I repeat, a systematic process of providing satisfactory answers to puzzling questions. So research is also a way of seeking answers for the truth. I want us to quickly note this, the essential elements of research design. The essential elements of research design. Number one, accurate purpose statements of research design. Accurate purpose statement of research design. Number two, techniques to be implemented. Techniques to be implemented for collecting details for research. Number three, the method applied for analyzing collected details. Methods applied. Number four, types of research methodology. Types of research methodology. Number five, probable objections for research. Probable objections for research. This one doesn't need much explanation. You only need understanding of those things I'm mentioning, the essential elements. Number six, settings for research study. Number seven, timeline. Then number eight, measurement of analysis. Measurement of analysis. So there are some other things that you need to know, and I will need to start telling you straight away. You see, we have steps in research process. Steps. But before we go into that, let us quickly understand some research terms. Some research terms that we need to understand, like research question. Research question. A research question is an answerable inquiry into a specific concern or issue. Research question is an answerable inquiry into a specific concern or issue. That is, you want to inquire, you want to make an inquiry into a specific issue. That is research question. What is research problem? A research problem is a statement about an area of concern. It is a statement. It is a statement about an area of concern. That is research problem. After I will have defined all these research terms, I will now come back to the steps in research process. You see. Then the next term, the next definition I want us to get is research hypothesis. Research hypothesis. Research hypotheses are statements to be tested for significance or otherwise in a research. You see, they are statements to be tested for significance or otherwise in a research. Then what is research methodology? Research methodology is the specific procedure or techniques applied or used to identify, select, process, and analyze information about a topic. I will be satisfied if you give me this way. Research methodology is specific procedures or techniques applied or used to identify information about a topic. Then, what is research instruments? Research instruments are measurement tools designed to obtain data on a topic of interest from research subjects. Research instruments are measurement tools designed to obtain data on a topic of interest for research subjects. Okay, what is research process? Research process. Research process involves identifying, locating, assessing, and analyzing the information you need to support your research question. Research process involves identifying, locating, assessing, and analyzing the information you need to support your research questions. Okay, now let's go back to steps in research process. What are the steps in research process? Number one, you must identify a problem. You must identify a problem. Number two, you must formulate hypotheses. Number three, you must review your related literature. That is, review of related literature. Number four, you must identify and label variables. Number five, you must construct operational definitions. Number six, you must construct a research design. And number seven, you must have specification and construction of instruments. And number eight, identification and selection of sample for study. Number nine, specification of statistical analysis to be made. And number 10, writing the research report. Writing the research report. Writing the research report is always the last thing in the steps, while identifying a problem is always the first thing. So if you are asked to identify 5 steps, if you are asked to identify 5 steps in research process, number 1 and the last are compulsory ones that must come into your answers. Because number 1 is very compulsory, and the last one, which is writing the research report, must also be one. So even if you are not asked to write all, if you are asked to write even 5, number 1 and the last one must come in. Now, we have problems of research in developing countries. Problems of research in developing countries. In the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'm likely to give room for questions because we are having less than 13 minutes to go. Problems of research in developing countries. Number 1, inadequate funding. Inadequate funding. Number 2, lack of necessary equipment. Lack of necessary equipment. Number 3, poor communication network. Poor communication network. Number 4, the publish or perish syndrome. Publish or perish syndrome. Number 5, lack of record keeping, while number 6 is business sector factor, the business sector factor. Number 7, attitude of government and society. And the last one, unattractive working conditions. Unattractive working conditions. So those are the problems of research in developing countries. Okay, I don't know if we can quickly do this. I would rather prefer leaving this for next week. I don't want to rush. Anywhere we get to before your exams, I will not ask questions beyond the levels. So let us stop here for tonight. Let us stop here for tonight. Question time now. I'm giving room for question now because we are having just 10 minutes to go. Question time. It is time for question. Time for question. It is time for question. It's time for questions. It's time for question. Time for question. We're having 7 minutes to go. Hello? Hello? Okay. I think we're having 6 minutes to go. Hello. Ẹ wá wò lọ ṣe mi hàn mí, mo ti hàn mí ìsira mi náà. Ayé wá wọ́n confirm ẹ̀, mo ti hàn mí ìsira mi but yá kò sí anybody online. Kọ́nà.
You, sir. I
Yes.
can hear you. Mr. Apollo, I can hear you.
Okay. I said it is time for question because I don't want to rush them. And we have less than 6 minutes to go. So it's time for question. Yes. Come ahead with your questions. Hello. Question time. We are having 4 minutes to go. Question. Still having 4 minutes to go. Ask your questions. Question, question, question. Question. Ask your question. We are still having 2 minutes. Okay. If we have no question, I think we can call it, I will not say call it a day, but rather say good night. Assignment before we go. Differentiate between regression analysis and correlation analysis. Regression analysis and correlation analysis.